going on, everybody? Season 6 review VBL-S Part 1 of the Daddy Plan is officially over for me. I got knocked out in quarterfinals by Tay. Has the familiar ring to it. We had a rematch at the finals, and he dumpstered me even harder. So, I am officially out, moving on to Part 2 here of the Daddy Plan in a little bit, hopefully sooner rather than later. I'm hyped to get another team going here. We did the mock draft, and that was a lot of fun. I like both the teams I drafted in the mock draft, so if I can end up with something as fun as either of those two, that'd be great. So I'm gonna move here and make my head a little smaller, and we're gonna go on and talk about how my season was. So my final team was also the team I started with. I did no transactions this season, and while it may look to the untrained eye like I have 11 Mons on my team, I actually only had 7. I only brought those first 7 Mons. I did bring Braviary once to a game, and I kept it on the bench, so it gets an orange star for that. Mudbray, Linoon, and Magmar all get yellow stars because they did not show up at all. All 4 of these Mons are going to be able to be drafted in Daddy Plan Part 2. I suspect at least 2 of them will be. Braviary is pretty good. Linoon is okay. I'd even bet Magmar, and maybe even Mudbray get drafted. I picked them because they're not bad, honestly, but the rest of my team was just a lot better than them in pretty much every situation. I'm sure I could have found times to bring Braviary. There was some discussion about that. It's a good Mon, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, I wasn't vibing with it. I brought it, didn't show up, so it happens. So with the 7 Mons that I did bring, it was again kind of a core 5 and then 1 extra, right? So you can see here from the graph, actually the reason I made my head small is because when I did my VBL-N season review, you couldn't see all this shit because my big old noggin was in the way. But I shrunk myself down, and we're doing it for the video. Next video I'll make my face even bigger to compensate. It'll just be my face on the screen. So we have Theramosa, Gothitelle, Azumarill, and Mungus are the big 4 here. Raichu is also a big player, expanded to the big 5. And these 5 were a lot of fun to use, honestly. I had never used any of them before. Well, actually, that's not true. I used Mungus before in draft, in singles and in doubles, and I like a Mungus, so I knew that was going to be fun. But Gothitelle, I'd never been able to pick up before. I've always wanted to grab a Shadow Tag Mon. I've never had the chance to. I've never been able to pick up these crazy... I don't think I've ever drafted an Ultra Beast before, come to think of it. I really wanted Kartana this season, but I got Pharaoh and Stakataka. I just love the design of the Ultra Beasts. Like looks-wise, they're all pretty cool. Theramosa kind of repulses me, not gonna lie, but it makes up for it with having fun stats. Stakataka is pretty sick, and it looks pretty cool, so and it's got good stats to boot. So I like the extremeness of the Ultra Beasts. It makes them a lot of fun to play with. And then with the other Mons that I have as part of the Big 5, Gothitelle, Mungus, and Raichu, they all have really flexible. Wait. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so the Big 5 is not Stakataka. I may have misspoke, but the Big 5 is Gothitelle, Mungus, Theramosa, Raichu, and Azumarill. Azumarill was a Mon that I had not really ever considered before. I wanted to get Primarina, the other water fairy type that was available, and then it was not available, so it left just Azumarill, because Feeny obviously went first. But Azumarill is really, really good. I learned that this season. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Within the Big 5, I had, what do you call it? A good 3 support Mons, and then Theramosa and Azumarill just put out ludicrous amounts of damage. And honestly, Mungus and Gothitelle, they pair so well together. They were really just able to control the game at pretty much all times. Not being able to switch is a humongous detriment to any team that's playing against me. And if you can't switch, if you get out of position against Gothitelle and Mungus, what are you going to do? Both your Mons are going to fall asleep. I'll start chipping away at you. Neither of them really have big damage output, so that leads me to have the free time to switch in one of my bigger, like, cannons, or I can just chip you down while you're asleep. And I mean, we saw games where both of those things happened. So, Gothitelle and Mungus were really, really good at facilitating my strong Mons to clean up games for the most part. And Theramosa, Stakataka, and Azumarill, they all are kind of Mons that if you give them like one turn, they quickly they spiral out of control. It's very hard to stop them once they get rolling. So, I mean, Theramosa and Stakataka, obviously they have Beast Boost. And Azumarill, if it gets one Belly Drum off, everything dies. So you have to play really carefully around it, and if you let it get that belly drum off, and you have a way if I have a way of protecting it, which I have a Mungus, I have Raichu, I have plenty of ways of protecting Azumarill, it can just steamroll through a team. In terms of Mons that I didn't bring as much, Auroras and Stakataka, they were both kind of matchup dependent Mons. I mean, who would have thought, right? Mons with 2 4x weaknesses are kind of matchup dependent. That's crazy. So when they did show up, they put in a lot of work, but it was hard to justify bringing them sometimes because just the environment wasn't right for them. But when it was right, it was amazing. Raichu, like I said before, it's just one of the good supporters. It wasn't nearly as good or as ubiquitous as Gothitelle and Mungus are. It's more tailored into what it'll be doing each week, but still pretty good, and I brought it 7 weeks, so I mean, it has to be good. So, moving on along, we start with Gothitelle. Most brought it 19 times, which is, I think, the most I've ever brought anything. I think it probably played all 19 games of the season. It ended up going 7-11, which is obviously kind of the record you'd expect to see from a support Mon. Not the offensive powerhouse of some of the other people on my team, but it definitely does the job. You can see here, Shadow Tag's pretty good. Not being able to switch out is a part of the game, and if I can just prevent them from playing the game, it makes me more likely to win, right? So Gothitelle was a Mon that I was able to just kind of beef out with bulk every week, and it would just get the job done. 5 times I ran Resist Berries, and the other 3 was Mental Herb. Mental Herb was a pretty important item for my team. Gothitelle and Mungus both wanted to run it. I think Mungus never actually ended up getting it, but we'll see that on the Mungus slide. Gothitelle's just, it really, really helped my team get into the spots it wanted to be in. Being able to set up Trick Room, which I brought 8 times on it, is amazing. Being able to fake out an opponent where they can't do what they wanted to do. Say, if I start... There's kind of 2 ways I would lead with the Gothitelle. Well, 3, I guess. Immediate offensive pressure with Gothitelle Theramosa, where fake out plays a huge role in that. Being able to stop them from doubling up on Theramosa, because Theramosa can either be EV to live 1 hit, or I can run a Focus Sash to live a hit, but it never lives 2 of anything, pretty much. So being able to help that with Gothitelle by forcing them to only have 1 Mon to act with is huge. Or I could do the Stakataka route, where I set up Trick Room, because Gothitelle usually takes like 3 hits to go down on average, unless you're really pounding it with 2 super effective hits, and you use up one of my Resist Berries. Being able to get up Trick Room, and then Stakataka goes crazy. And then there was the third option where I just lead Gothitelle Mungus, which is kind of the hope you have some way to get around Spore, or you lose. And a lot of the times people do. You really have to prepare for a Mungus, otherwise it'll still roll over your team. And there's like an item tailor-made to counter Mungus. Safety Goggles were created in Gen 6 for a reason. I don't think anybody knew how good a Mungus was going to be. But we're here, we're in the post-Mungus world, we have Safety Goggles. But even then, you still have to prepare a lot for that little mushroom. And it's even harder when you can't switch in your Safety Goggles Mon if you pick your lead it correctly against it. Gothitelle was the most expensive Mon on my team. I think it was like 18 points out of 20, and it absolutely was worth every single one of those points. I would pick this again in a heartbeat. I would pick the 2 little forms, but again in a heartbeat. Shadow Tag is incredible. This move set is crazy. You don't need the offensive stats. You just need the bulk. And Gothita is the middle one, I think, or Gothette. The middle one is just about as bulky. It doesn't have the power, and you can only run a Violite, but if you know what, I didn't actually end up running like a Citrus Berry on Gothitelle any week, so it honestly did the exact same job as like, I think, is it Gothita is the middle one? I think it's Gothita is the middle one. So it's effectively the same bulk, but obviously I get to use my Resist Berries, which is nice. Overall, love Gothitelle. It really, really helped the rest of my team shine. It's going to be hard going into next season when I have to think about Mons switching again, because every single arena or Shadow Tag got picked. So maybe you'll have to pick Arena Trap next season if I like my no switching fun, because that was a lot of fun. It made me not have to think, and who wants to think? Up next, we have part 2 of the Dastardly Duo, Mungus. We brought it 15 times, went 7-9. Again, kind of a support Mon record you see there. And this thing absolutely fucking warps matchup. It warps team building to a degree that nothing else on my team does. And honestly, maybe nothing else the format does, besides maybe Regieleki. This thing is, you bring safety goggles, you bring overcoat, you bring your grass types, otherwise everything else loses to it. It's bulky enough to live a super effective hit pretty much always. Like, this thing lived a Life Orb Rotom Heat Overheat just with some investment, no Akaberry needed. But in my set against Tay, I brought it with Akaberry to take 3 overheats to take down, because the first one does like 49, the second one does 49 also because you get your special attack cut, and then you get it with the third one. And that's assuming I'm not Giga Draining your opponent in the meantime. So a Mungus is a really big pain in the ass to take down, and even if you are prepared for it, it can still get the win, as it did throughout the course of the season. It was one of my most valuable Mons. Obviously, anything with goggles is going to hurt, but you can only bring 1 goggles, so really overcoat is the thing that, it's just the thorn in this thing's side. Every time I brought a Mungus in any season ever, the only weeks where I've had like a really hard time bringing a Mungus are the weeks where you play overcoat, which is Escavalier, which is Mandibuzz. Both of which, as we saw, were really hard for my team to get through. I had a double up on Escavalier with multiple foul plays per turn. Hold up, what is this? Oh, that's the pharmacy. I don't need that call. And then against a Mandibuzz, I had nothing to do. I originally even brought Toxic on this Mungus specifically for Mandibuzz, but I got scared and dropped it at the last second. And honestly, it wouldn't have made a difference. Tay completely out-prepped and outplayed me, but would have given me more of a shot against that big, bulky bird. Just kind of things to reiterate. Mungus, Sleepless Redirection is always going to be incredible. People draft Butterfree for this reason, but why would you draft Butterfree when you can draft like the OG Sleep Redirector with actual stats and actual bulk? And honestly, it does pretty good job in its offenses too. It's like 85-85, I think, or maybe it's 85-80, which is pretty good, honestly. That's above average when you take into account all the Mons in the format. And I think that's across all fully evolved Mons too. But still, yeah, it's good offensively. Sludge Bomb does a good bit of damage. Obviously, Poison's a shit attacking type. This thing does not have a good attacking type. It's not G-Max Venusaur. It doesn't get the 1/6 per turn bullshit that does, so it has to make do with Sludge Bomb and Giga Drain, but it does obviously get Spore, which is the reason why you pick a Mungus. Rage Powder is bonkers as well. It's the ultimate Trick Room support. You help get the Trick Room up, and then you are one of the main abusers of it on the team, and it just makes everyone's life a lot harder, except for yours. It does make your life a lot harder when your opponent copies your Mungus, and then you have to play against that. I didn't expect that. I typically brought Regenerator on it, but I did bring Effect Spore for that very last matchup against Tay's team because he had Urshifu Rapid Strike. So if it didn't have safety goggles, which it didn't, if it hits me a couple times with Surging Strikes or close combats over and over, it's going to get statused and it's going to make its job a lot harder to do. Overall, love the Mungus, and I will probably be drafting it again in the future if it shows up in Scarlet and Violet. Next up, we've got Theramosa. A whole different style of play than my first 2 Mons. Gothitelle to Mungus, team support, absolutely very generous Mons. They're never going to... oh, shoot. They're never going to be the star of the show, but Theramosa totally can be. It is so unbelievably strong. One sec, let me pause real quick. Okay, we're back. Gotta work on the day off, that sucks. So, Theramosa. This thing does a shit ton of damage. This thing takes a shit ton of damage, and it is super high volatility, and I loved every second of it. What the fuck? What? Oh my god, dude. Anyways, so, Theramosa deals a lot of damage, takes a lot of damage, but the thing is, it's fast as fuck, so it usually deals that damage before it takes it, so it'll get a KO. And bring it 14 times, going 13 and 7 is pretty awesome for as a Mon as frail as Theramosa is. It's like 50 HP. It's essentially like Deoxys levels of bulk, which is pretty pathetic. It's closer to Deoxys attack actually, which is even worse. So this thing, you have to play it fast and aggressive. You have to go in. You have to try to get the kills as quickly as possible. And thankfully, the rest of my team was able to help that. We talked about it earlier, Gothitelle getting fake outs and trapping them in. If you're trapped in versus Theramosa and you're weak to it, tough luck, buddy, you're done. And Mungus was able to redirect and also put things to sleep, so obviously 2 things that you don't want to be, you want to be attacking Theramosa, and if you can't hit it, you can't kill it, and it's going to start killing you, or if you fall asleep, you're absolutely hosed. So Theramosa, it's going to take a kill, and then it's going to disappear. be that by getting killed, or it's going to U-turn, which gets stab and does a ton of damage, and then switches into something more defensive, because my team had a lot of bulk, if you don't count Theramosa. I loved its ability to just do crazy amounts of damage right off the bat, but also it doesn't have to just do that. It can do some speed control stuff, which is kind of crazy for a Mon. As powerful as just that it gets access to speed control. It's kind of like a more flexible Regieleki, I'd say. It's definitely better than Regieleki, no doubt in my mind. 200 speed is often overkill. 151 is pretty bonkers too, and it gets you there. But this thing's, I guess it's not as strong. Eleki has that stupid ability, but more flexible, actually has coverage, which is a huge difference maker. And it's the speed control options it has are the same as Eleki. Electro Web, Icy Wind is better than Electro Web, and they even get Speed Swap, which I ran 5 times. Because obviously Theramosa Stack Attack a Speed Swap is a big meme, it's a lot of fun, pretty predictable, but when it works, and I got it to work, like, I think twice during the season, and then Stack Attack and ran away with the game, so... I mean, you know, if it gets the job done, there's already so many things on this team you have to prep for with a Mungus. You have to make sure your Mons are ready for it. There's some things you can't cover, and Speed Swap onto Stack Attack, not a lot of teams prepared for that, and it ended up working to my advantage a lot of the time. Unfortunately, though, this isn't a Mon that really gets to take advantage of the Beast Boost too often. Often it would be getting a kill and then dying, or getting a kill with U-turn and switching out, losing the boost, which I saw happen a lot, made me kind of sad to switch out and lose that +1. But a lot of the time you don't need the boost. You'll get the super effective hit, you'll kill it in one hit. Or if you stay in and you're really going for it, you'll maybe get 1 or 2 kills before this thing goes down. But honestly, Theramosa was so much fun. It doesn't matter that it doesn't ever really live through a game. I mean, I guess it did. It lived half the time, which is a lot better than I would have expected for this thing. I actually ran it a lot with a Scarf, which was kind of fun. It's so ludicrously fast, it just outspeeds... Like, I ran this against Braff's team. I lost that game, but it was able to outspeed a Shiftry in the sun. Like, a max speed timid Shiftry, with just slapping a Choice Scarf on it. It hits like 300 something, which outspeeds almost everything, which is bananas. So, yeah, this is a Mon that absolutely put in a lot of work for the team in more ways than just big, dumb kill things. Up next, we have Azumarill. Brought it 14 times, 14 and 10, and this was honestly kind of a shock how good this Mon was for me. Turns out when you have mediocre stats and 2 great abilities, you're a pretty good Mon. Brought Sap Sipper twice, and the rest of the time huge power. Huge power is just such a big draw. You can't keep me away from using that ability. Like it says here, just clicking buttons and watching things die makes me very happy inside. I don't know. It speaks to some kind of primal urge within my core. So Azumarill was a great way of getting that done. Really, all the 2 strong water fairies do that, right? Primarina nukes both of them at once with Hyper Voice. Azumarill kills them one at a time with Liquidation, and it kills me even faster if you get off the belly drum. Goes from having 112 attack, which is meh, to 896, which is fucking game breaking. Even at level 100, that shit's crazy. So level 50, nothing surviving that. Even if you burn it, it can still kill you. I remember there was the game where I think it was Goose, he had the Volcarona in, which, not the bulkiest Mon to be fair, but I was burned, and I had -1, and I still killed it 1 hit with Liquidation. Stuff like that is why I loved using Azumarill, and being able to get that belly drum off was something that my team was a lot, kind of built around helping. Like I said, Gothitelle, you get the Fake Out, you got the Trap. Mungus, you pretty much resist everything this thing is weak to, and you can draw it in with Rage Powder. Even Raichu helps with its passive Lightning Rod kind of redirection too, and the Fake Out protection there. So, Raichu... What the fuck am I talking about? Azumarill, great Mon, love it. Would love to use it again in the future. 2 great abilities, lots of fun stuff. And up next, we have Raichu. Brought 7 times, went 2 and 7. That's a pretty bad record, but I mean, something on my team had to have a bad record. But I brought this Mon a lot often. It's like, even though this was part of the core 5, it was the 6th Mon I added to my team. I talked about this in the VBL-N. It was kind of like Stunky there, where I brought it a lot, but it was never the first thing I added to my team. It just has so many good moves and a good passive redirection ability and 110 speed. It just has so much packed into one Mon. I loved it. Like you see here, I brought it 7 times, and I only brought the most commonly brought move was 4 times, which are Fake Out, Encore, and Thunderbolt, which makes sense. Those are great moves. It has a huge diversity in items: healing, resist berry, safety goggles, AD and sash. Lots of status moves. Where is it? Nuzzle, honorable mention for being a status move that's not a status move, letting you run Assault Vest. It's not very flashy. It never really took... I mean, it only took 2 kills the entire season. I couldn't tell you what they were. It definitely got kills when Tay brought it in against me. But we don't talk about that anymore. I don't want to relive that trauma. Raichu did a lot for the team while not being very... not being flashy, not very overstated. It was just a good team support mon that helped me get some wins that I might not have gotten without it. Here we have Stakataka, another really fun mon to use. But holy shit, Rock Steel sucks. I did not understand the full extent to how bad having 2 quadruple weaknesses is before I drafted this thing. Like, honestly, you know Rock Ground, it sucks. There's a lot of double weaknesses out there. Water Grass hurts, but honestly, ground fighting is probably worse than that. I've used this typing before. I used Aggron with Dynamax, but with Dynamax you feel it less. Aggron had Sturdy, it's not as bad of a deal. But even then I didn't like using Aggron, because Aggron's not as crazy powerful as Stakataka is. 8 and 2, brought 6 times. Like I said, this is a matchup mon. When it has a good matchup, it goes crazy. But if it's fighting, like, this thing is hard countered by fighting types, hard countered by ground types. Like, I think someone brought Silvally ground against me, and it was a nightmare to deal with. Just one mon that's like solidly mid-tier. Silvally has shit stats, but like, what do I do? Oops. What do I do when I'm facing a ground type? I guess I just die. Usually just brought the water resist berry. I did bring Chople Berry once because I don't remember what game that was against, but usually don't bother trying to live ground or fighting type attacks, especially if they're on the special side. You're just gonna die. So might as well bring Pasho Berries, tank a water hit. Focus Sash was when I just accepted that, okay, if there's going to be a fighting type, there's going to be a ground type, I'm going down. So pretty much it was always to make sure this thing lived more than 1 turn, because when this thing lives more than 1 turn, it kind of goes crazy. Beast Boost is actually useful on this thing if you do the trick where you give it 17 defense IVs and let it boost its attack, or you can just boost defense and use Body Press, which is totally fine. So a lot of teams have fighting weaknesses, and Body Press boosting itself is pretty cool synergy. Yeah, it's hard to make work. It needs to be in Trick Room because it's the slowest mon that got drafted, I think. But if you can make that work, you're in for a lot of fun with Stakataka. It has a great moveset. Doesn't have much, but it has exactly what it needs to get the job done. Then we have Auroras, who is another mon that I really... Well, this was kind of a shocker. This was a lot of fun to use. It brought 5 times with 9 and 5, another matchup mon, but holy shit! Rock and Ice sucks even harder than Rock and Steel does. It's unbelievable how bad this thing is for my type chart. It has 2 quad weaknesses, Steel and Fighting, and it's weak to everything under the sun. It has no resistances. It's so fucking bad. But Rock and Ice isn't great offensive type, so gets the job done there. Brought Snow Warning most of the time, Refrigerate once, because I thought Slough was going to bring the Licky Licky with the weather blocking ability. But, you know, if I'm able to get into Auroras and I'm able to get off some Blizzards, it's going to take some kills. It was a lot of fun to use. I really liked it. It's super high variance mon. If it takes a hit if it takes a hit of the wrong type, it dies. If it doesn't, it kills you. So, again, it's kind of like Stakataka, where if you have the right matchup, this thing goes crazy. And if it's on the field and in Trick Room, it has a speed advantage. It's a commanding force, and you need to find a way to take it down quick. Unfortunately, Mach Punch exists. Unfortunately, Bullet Punch exists, but if you can find a way around those, you're golden. So Auroras was a lot of fun to use, and I don't think many people expected it to be as good as it was. 9 and 5 for 4 points, bring it 5 times to a game. It definitely got a lot more value than a 4-point mon should. And here we come to the mons that didn't quite make the cut. We have Braviary, which actually did make it to a game. I'll give it props to that. It didn't hit the field, but it was on the bench. And Mudbray, Magmar, and Linoon did not quite make it. I did consider bringing Magmar. I literally almost brought it to the game against Goose, which probably would have lost me the game. I had a defensive Magmar set ready to go against his team, but I decided at the last second to switch it back to a Mungus like I had earlier, and thank God I did. Mudbray's actually not bad. Mudbray has 100 attack, which is super big for an NFE, or even a little cut mon. Seriously. With the Violet, it's really bulky. Stamina's great, inner focus is great. So I suspect this thing might put in some work in part 2. Braviary is honestly a great mon, I just didn't like it very much, so I didn't bring it. So I'd expect, honestly, all 4 of these to get drafted next time in the Daddy Plan part 2. I actually, when I was making this, I forgot what my 4th mon was, and I had to look it up on the Draft NL website to find that I had Linoon on my team. Because I think I maybe considered it once, but I don't know, man. these are all fine Mons. They're going to be top tiers in Part 2 of the Daddy Plan, just you see. They're going to put in work, and they'll make a name for themselves next time. Overall, just want to give a quick shout out to my most creative build, which was the Sap Sipper Encore Azumarill, which won me the game against Kartana, which, Azumarill versus Kartana? What do you mean? Kartana wins that matchup every time. Unless it's trapped into a grass move, which I was so thankful to be able to get off. I was really scared because I had revealed Scald earlier, which I thought maybe would reveal that I am Sap Sipper and not a physical huge power set. So we had the Scald, we had Protect, we had Encore. We had Parasong just in case I needed to stall out the rest of the team, because I think on this team there wasn't much that could really hit Azu super effectively with Sap Sipper, and I brought it once, it worked, I got the surprise factor, didn't work the second time, but I was able to win Game 3, and I was only able to get to that Game 3 because of Azumarill, so lots of props to that. That was a super fun game. I popped off when when I managed to tank the Leaf Blade and hit him with the Encore. Oh, that was so fun. So yeah, that was my most creative set. My best duo overall, I gotta say, Gothitelle and Mungus. They both had negative KDs, but they were so instrumental to the rest of my team actually... I guess I can put my face back. They were so instrumental to the rest of my team actually functioning well that I don't think I could give the best duo to any two but them. They were such a great pair. Two super good Gen 5 Mons. Gen 5 proving again to be maybe the best generation for competitive Mons ever. So... yeah, that was the season. It was a lot of fun. Ended up going, I think, a total of 5-3. 5-2 regular season, then losing to Tay in quarterfinals. It was a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see how the next games go in the semis and then finals, and I'm really, really excited for Part 2. I think Part 2 is going to be a season to remember. So that was that. I'll see you guys in the next video for VBL-S, which will be the draft review of Part 2. Well, that'll be in probably like a month or so, but who knows. I got other leagues going on in the meantime, Almost Any Ability, check that out. And that's all I got. I'll see y'all in the next one. Later.